Well, welcome to the 8th Annual Kingsport Chamber Legislative BBQ. I'm Alan Hill with AT&T, Chair of this year's Government Relations Program here at the Kingsport Chamber. And we want to thank you for being here tonight. This is our first time at this new venue, the Farmers Market, and what do you think about it? I think it's a pretty neat place. With that in mind, we've enjoyed several years at the Domtar cabin, and we want to thank our friends at Domtar for letting us use that cabin for a long time. It's the success of this event, though, has almost outgrown the cabin. So we thank you for your participation, or you allowing us to have the cabin for many, many years. But this is a great venue. As you can see, we could double or triple the size of this maybe next year. Events like this could not be possible without our sponsors. Let me mention those. Appalachian Power, AT&T, Charter Communications, Domtar, and I'll say Domtar also donated the grill tonight, by the way, Eastman Chemical Company, the Edinburgh Group, Health South, Holston Valley Medical Center, Indian Path Medical Center, and Pfizer. Also, our sound tonight is provided by the Elixir Group, and all the food and beverages have been provided by Food City, and as we see their nice store right here on this property. Also, if you enjoyed your food tonight, for our grilling folks, if you hold up your hand, Miles, Tom, Danny, Ron, we're all the grilling guys out there. Some are still working, I believe, if you still want more burgers and dogs. So, all good, all good. We want to thank all the elected officials that are here tonight from the city and Sullivan County as well. We appreciate you being here with your attendance and support. This is a Kingsport Chamber event, of course, and we also want to thank Gary Mabry. He was here earlier, had to leave, but the Johnson City Chamber and all the folks that are here from Johnson City Chamber as well. Also, we want to recognize, before I introduce our legislators later, we had a couple also folks that have been nominated to some special positions. We have Lottie Ryans with CenturyLink here with us tonight, who's recently been appointed to the Workforce Investment Board for the state of Tennessee. Good job, Lottie. Also, we have a judge in the house, former Senator Mike Falk. Judge, are you here? You still here? Yep, there he is. Recently appointed by Governor Haslam to the 3rd Judicial District position, and I understand his dog Reuben is in the chambers from time to time. Okay, good deal. Thank you, and glad you're here as well. Before we go on with our announcements and our program tonight, I want to ask Paul Montgomery if he'll come forward to give our invocation. Paul is the Vice President for Community Relations and Corporate Services for Eastman Chemical here. So, Paul, would you come forward? Thank you.
Good evening. As we begin to pray tonight, we want to take time to remember one of our legislators who served this state a long time. So let's start by a moment of silence for Lois DeBerry. Father, we invite you tonight to come into this place, abide with us as we abide in you. Father, we lift up all those who provide service to mankind. We have a special blessing tonight, Father, for the representative who passed away, Lois DeBerry. We also, Father, lift up our own here in our region, and I want to call them by name. Lieutenant Governor Ron Ramsey, we lift him up. His family, blessings upon him. John Lundberg, we lift John, his family, and we ask blessings upon him. Tony Shipley, Father, we continue to ask blessings upon Tony and his family, as well as Timothy Hill. We extend blessings to him and his family. Father, we have so many folks who continue to give above self, and we're thankful that you have allowed us to live in a land where we can do that and worship you freely. We ask a special blessing of those who prepared this food tonight, and for those of us who consume or are consuming it, we ask that you bless it, that we will continue to get stronger, and that we continue to grow in your service. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Paul. Now I want to call on Beth Reinhardt to come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Beth is the Director of Government Relations with Wellmont Health System, so if you all will rise and Beth.
Please face the flag and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Beth. Now, I want to take just a moment to do a special presentation from our company, AT&T, and I want to call a couple folks up to help me do this real quick. First of all, my manager, Dennis Wagner, who's a Sullivan County native. If Dennis will come up with me from AT&T, and then I'll ask our state legislators to come up, Lieutenant Governor and Representative Lundberg, Shipley, and Hill. Did Timothy make it? Is Timothy not here? Okay. Tony and John, come on up. John Lundberg. There he goes. He's in the back. He's coming up. And then also I want the education group committee of the co-chairs for on the Kingsport Chamber Education Committee are Dr. Guinea and Dr. Alshai. If you're here, if you'll come on up and join us here up front. Are you all here tonight? Oh, there we go. Dr. Alshai, there we go. Oh, good. And did Monty make it? Monty could not make it? Okay. Hold just a second. Let me get something back. Yeah. I'll scoot on the side. I want to say something first, and then I want you to say something about it. Yeah. I'll do that. Before we do the photo, let me just say what this is about. As you know, under Nicole's leadership and with Miles' leadership, they do a great job here supporting education. The Tennessee-Virginia Scholars Program has been going on here now for about 20 years. This past year, they had close to 500 students, I believe, involved in the program. And each year, this program encourages students to take a higher road in terms of rigor and study technical education to encourage them to reach above and beyond their potential. And so without this kind of program encouraging students to go higher in their education studies, we're not going to have the students that we need for tomorrow, therefore the workforce of tomorrow. And we know our state legislators have been heavily involved in education reform the past several years. Thanks to their leadership, good things are happening in the state. Good funding, a lot of changes in curriculum and accountability are there, but support from the governor, from the lieutenant governor, our state representatives Shipley and Lundberg and others in this northeast region to support education. At AT&T, we think it's important to support education because we need a workforce for the future too, just like many of your companies here today represented by the Chamber. So this year, we're pleased to announce a donation to the Kingsport Chamber Foundation earmarked for the Tennessee-Virginia Scholars Program that Nicole and her staff and her team will take and use to good investment. So this year, we're donating $25,000 to help this program move forward. I will say while they're taking their seats, and Lieutenant Governor, I'm getting ready to call you back up, so don't get too comfortable. We're going to go one at a time here, as you can see in your program, for some reports from our state legislators. But if Tennessee was not a business-friendly state, our company would not be able to continue to invest in this state and to have a return where we can make a fair profit in return to the community investments like this. And I know the same thing for your companies are here too. So hats off to our legislators for making Tennessee a business-friendly state to attract more and more investment. We applaud the good news recently of our Eastman friends. The investment and the growth here the next few years is tremendous, and so many companies in the Northeast and all across the state are finding that Tennessee is a good place to do business, so we thank you for that. So now it turns our time and attention to our reports from our legislative group. So we'll start off with Lieutenant Governor Ron Ramsey. Let's welcome Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you. It is a great venue, but I'll tell you one thing I miss. Out there at Domtar was kind of a little more cozy, and I was up close to you. It feels like I'm talking to something like Bristol Motor Speedway or something. And I guarantee you that there must be a lot of Baptists in this room. Nobody's sitting on the front row. Us Methodists are just about as bad at that. But Alan, thank you for all you're doing. Thank you for that $25,000. For those of you who don't know, before we came over here just a minute ago, AT&T also donated a check to CASA, and I know that Connie Steer is here and appreciates that very much. So AT&T does a great job of giving money back that they earn here in our community. So thank you, and thank you, Dennis, for what you do, and I mean that. And thank you to Kingsport Chamber, too, for what you all do. I always enjoy this event, kind of giving an update to all those that want to come to this dinner about what's going on in the state of Tennessee. And to be perfectly honest, the last 2 or 3 years, I really enjoyed what we've been able to say here in the state of Tennessee, because I think we are one of the best run states in the nation. It isn't just me that says that. Over the last few weeks and last few months and a year or so, I suppose, Tennessee just seems to be getting award after award after award, recognition after recognition after recognition for the way we're running the state of Tennessee. And Governor Haslam was up last night, and I met him last night for dinner. He was at an event down in Jonesboro, and I think the team that we put together with Tony Shipley and John Lundberg here today, and Timothy Hill couldn't be here tonight, and Northeast Tennessee in particular, and working with Beth Harwell and the governor, we have a very, very good close working relationship. We have breakfast together every Wednesday. We have lunch together every Thursday while we're in session. Last night, the governor's almost comical. He's speaking to a group. He said, I get used to Ron Ramsey so much while we're in session. When he leaves, he said, believe it or not, I actually miss him. That's the first time he's ever told me that. So that made me feel so good that he actually, but anyway. So I had my staff in Nashville kind of over the last day or so start pulling all these and do the Google searches and do the internet searches on what we've actually done in the last year or two in the state legislature. And that's what I want to go over today. And rarely when I speak do I have to have notes. But this is so long and so many things that there's no way I can memorize this, at least not yet. Maybe I will. I just got this today. Jason Mumpower just mentioned, it is on your table there, something that passed around. Fitch, there are 3 bond rating agencies. I've gone to New York a couple of times with the governor to sit before Standard & Poor's and Fitch's and Moody's to get the bond rating for the state of Tennessee. And by the way, something I don't even have on here, we're one of the few states that still have a AAA bond rating from all 3. We actually have a higher bond rating than the United States government right now, and so I'm proud of that. But Fitch just the last few weeks or so, and Jason has an article there on the table, recognized Tennessee as the lowest debt ratio in the nation. You, as a people of the state of Tennessee, owe less money per capita than any of the other 50 states. And I think that's huge when we start recruiting business. Bankrate.com just ranked this year Tennessee the #1 state in the nation to retire. Barron's Magazine just ranked Tennessee the 3rd best run state in the nation. I hate to disagree with them. I think we're the 1st, but I'll take 3rd on that one. The Bureau of Economic Analysis just ranked Tennessee as the #1 in the Southeast in 2012 for GDP growth. The Bureau of Economic Analysis ranked Tennessee the #1 in the Southeast for personal income growth in 2012. U.S. Department of Commerce just ranked Tennessee the #1 in the Southeast for manufacturing job growth in 2012. Business Facilities Magazine just ranked Tennessee #1 in the nation for auto manufacturing jobs. I don't know how many of y'all have seen that. There are about 130,000 people that work in the state of Tennessee in automobile manufacturing. This is the 4th straight year that we've had that, the more job manufacturing automobiles. We're #4 in the country, not just the Southeast, but the U.S. Department of Labor ranked Tennessee the #4 in the country in net new jobs since 2011. 138,000 new net jobs in Tennessee, 4th in the nation. the third lowest state and local taxes among local and state taxes combined of any state. So not only are we balancing our budget and doing a lot of things exciting, we're actually cutting your taxes, doing away with the death tax and a lot of other things, cutting the sales tax on food. But we're doing it with the lowest tax in the nation. Area Development Magazine, you may have just seen this because there was a couple of, USA Today had an article just a week or so ago, maybe the first of this week, about the crumbling infrastructure in this nation. And it had the worst ranked states, the Michigans and the Pennsylvanias of the world. And I travel some and go to those. We don't know how lucky we are. Literally, you can get on Interstate 81, drive I-40, go all the way to Nashville and really never see a pothole. We take that for granted here in the state of Tennessee. And the Area Development Magazine ranked Tennessee #1 in the nation for road infrastructure. And maybe one of the things I'm most proud of, George Mason University just did a study about 2 months ago of the freest states in the nation. They based it on regulation, they based it on taxes, they based it on business regulation. They also talked about Second Amendment rights, just lots of other things to the freest state in the nation. And Tennessee, according to George Mason University, is the third freest state in the nation. Now, #1 and #2 are North Dakota and South Dakota. So I go to South Dakota every year pheasant hunting, folks. So I like to say Tennessee is the freest state in the nation that anybody lives in, okay? When you go to South Dakota, you have to hunt for a house. They have one congressman and really deserve about half a congressman based on their population. So all that adds up to what we've been able to do here. And all this time, and we talked about this, it's pretty appropriate that AT&T tonight gave $25,000 to the scholarship the foundation here because of what we've been able to do with education here in the state of Tennessee. And to say the least, it has been controversial. We have done things like making tenure something that you earn, not automatically given to you basically after 3 years. We've done away with collective bargaining for teachers. I've always been one that felt like government employees in particular did not need to have collective bargaining. We did away with that. We were doing that at the same time when Governor Scott Walker was doing that up in Wisconsin. But we just didn't hardly get the attention he did because we're not the union state that Wisconsin is. And that, in my opinion, that removes a barrier between teachers and the administration. Dr. Yenning, Dr. Alshire here, no longer do they have to talk to the union representatives. They can now go straight to the teachers and talk to them. And I go on and on what we're able to give parents some choice in where their kids attend. Now you say, that's great, Ron, that's fantastic that you've done all this reform, but has anything really happened in the last 3 years? Well, I had them send these statistics too. From 3 years ago to today, there are now 91,000 more students in the state of Tennessee that are doing math at grade level than they were just 3 years ago. 91,000. There are 52,000 more students across this state after we've initiated these reforms that are doing science at grade levels in grades 3 through 8. And so while we were doing this, we're one of only 2 states in the nation. You can tell I love bragging on Tennessee. We're one of only 2 states in the nation over the last 2 years that have had a double-digit growth in graduation rates. So yes, I like to think it's working. And some on the other side of the aisle and the old union representatives, for what's left of them, actually give us a lot of criticism that we aren't putting enough money in education. Let me give you a little fact. Governor Haslam has been in office now for 3 years. In those 3 years, we have put $130 million in teacher pay raise increases across this state. The last 4 years, the previous administration put $22 million. $130 million in 3 years, $22 million in 4 years. So we're putting our money where the mouth is on that. So I can go on and on. We have a retirement system. It's one of the best funded in the nation. We look to see what Detroit's going through right now with promising way more than they'll ever be able to deliver and having to pay our bankruptcy. Well, folks, there are lots of states that are in the same shape they're in. Well, we have the best funded retirement system in the nation. And we continue to keep it that way. Again, doing things that are controversial. We're going from a direct contribution to a defined contribution to defined benefit to defined contribution in the state of Tennessee to actually give state employees some choice when they come in. So I'll end with that. I go on a workers' compensation reform, unemployment reform. I got to give Tony and John at least something to talk about when they get up here. But I love talking about what we've been able to do. And I'm enjoying my job. I really am. And the Governor Haslam and I talk about this a lot. That rarely do you run against somebody for 17 months, as he and I did, and actually become better friends at the end of the campaign than you were before. And God does everything for a reason. I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, helping lead the state Senate, just like Beth Harwell's exactly where she's supposed to be. And one thing I'm most proud of, that I do believe that what you want us to do is go to Nashville, do our job, and come home. It cost us about $1 million a week while we were in session in Nashville with per diem, extra staff. And the 2 years before Beth Harwell became Speaker, we got out on June the 18th and June the 16th. This year, we got out on April the 18th. I think it was Howard Baker one time that said that the worst thing that ever happened to Washington, D.C. was when they put air conditioning in the Capitol building. And I think there's some truth to that. And so let me assure you, as long as I'm Speaker, we're going to be out of Nashville before we have to turn the air conditioning on. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd be curious if we held the legislative sessions in here with open windows in January and February, maybe we speed things along too. Okay, next we want to hear from State Representative John Lundberg. If you'll come on up.
I'm on the way, but I want to do something that Tony Shipley can't do. Believe it or not, this is one of the few times that I can be a lot louder than Tony Shipley. Where is Tony? Oh, what? Tony, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. He's got one there, Judge. No, he really does. He really does. Actually, can everybody hear me if I do that?
You got to show me up,
I'll tell you, I absolutely love following Lieutenant Governor Ramsey. He leaves me lots to talk about. So, ditto everything he said. But I will say, you know, he went back this year and talked about what happened. He went back 3 years. Getting to where we are and getting those accolades is frankly been a process that has been going on for him for 20 years since he's been here. And I'll tell you, I thank him for what he's done. Personally, I had mostly a good year, I will say. We tweaked some bath salt issues to make it easier. You probably know about one issue that's I'm most tied with right now, and we'll do my version of an informal poll. Just out of curiosity, how many people in here would like to be able to buy wine in their grocery store? Would you show me with your hands? So, if you don't want to buy, but you want people to be able to do it, good point. I am going to bring that back up in January. Frankly, I hope to bring it up in the same form. We treat alcohol issues at the local level. That's what this does. It puts it back to a referendum, and I think that's important. And I think we have an unfair system right now where we have a government-mandated, government-subsidized in some ways, monopoly to liquor stores. And this is nothing against liquor stores because I think it's unfair. And if you think about it, most people who are logical are going to say, okay, if you can only buy wine in a liquor store, but it's illegal to sell a corkscrew in a liquor store, we have something that is fundamentally wrong. So that's what we need to fix. When Steve Smith came to testify in the committee, I thought it was fascinating. His opening remark was, I've been selling wine to Tennesseans for years. I've just been doing it in my Virginia stores. And he's right. And he's taking our business, not just wine, but sales of everything else, and that's critical. Tony, if you want to do the same thing, by the way, from here, when you get up. So, it's just too much fun. So, I will wrap up. By the way, Senator, Your Honor, proud of where you are, and thank you for what you've done. So, I have to make one inside joke. There is no question who's the top dog now in Nashville. So, and the inside joke is he brought his dog Reuben to the Senate, and I brought my dog, and still bring my dog Nash to the House, and once in a while they'd get together and play. Reuben, frankly, has kind of ADD for a dog, so it's everywhere. So, but they got along well. I just want to wrap. Where's Kathleen Glover? She's here somewhere. Welcome back. You are seeing what is truly the strongest chamber, I think, in the state, and that's because of the involvement here from Miles, Gary, and you look around here and you see not only elected people, business leaders, everybody works together, and it's just gives me chill bumps to see what that does. And if you look around here, you see how that all comes together. And that is because of you. I thank you. And what you see in here also from us is when we go back next year, if you want to talk about what we're trying to do, what we're trying to do is something that I think we've been doing for 20 years. Trying to keep regulation away from you. Trying to make it easier to grow and expand and start business and doing that. I think that's really the key objective. It's an honor for me to serve, and I thank you for doing it. And let me take this opportunity to welcome Tony Shipley. So, Tony, I'll always be number one, but come on up. So,
It never gets any better in Nashville either. Can you all hear me? Okay, we'll try. First of all, it's a real pleasure to represent the community and be disrespected by my colleagues. It's really quite an honor. Thanks a lot, John. I really mean that. But actually, that's really the hallmark of something that's quite special about us. And though we work well with Ron, let me illuminate our relationship with John Lundberg. A couple of years ago, our town was overrun by synthetic drugs. We had one heck of a problem. And we couldn't even get to the problem because just of the legislative process. We couldn't get there. So I talked to Dennis Phillips, and to his credit and to Mayor Godsey's credit, they led the city and the county into ordinances and resolutions to block while we were waiting to get felony law into place. Can you still hear me? I'm sorry. Allergies are terrible in the summer for me. Our speaker was at a conference last year. When she got back, she called me and she said, "You'll never guess what bill they wanted to talk about at the speakers conference." And she said it was our synthetic bill. And she said that they were talking about that synthetic legislation as being the national standard because we did it right. And we did it right because we worked together as a team, Democrat and Republican. And we passed a piece of legislation that forever has fundamentally changed the lives of hundreds of kids that we'll never even know that would have been sick. The measurement that you can look at today that a couple of years ago was just breaking our hearts is we had 5 people on the average in every ICU in the Tri-Cities every day, 5 people a day in the census that were in our ICUs that were deathly ill on synthetic drugs. And thanks to people like John Lundberg and Ron Ramsey and others in the legislature, we put an end to that. And I have to tell you, I could go home today, never go back to Nashville, and maybe never see you all again at another one of these, and we'll be completely satisfied that we did something as a community that was very noble and appropriate. With those things in mind, we have a terrible problem in Tennessee, and for the life of me, I can't quite understand why it wants to focus on us. But all the good things that Ron said about Tennessee, we lead the nation in meth manufacturing. Of all the things for our state to be known for in a negative sense is the manufacturing of methamphetamines. There's a bunch of reasons why that could be happening, but it's something this year that we're going to tackle. Last year I had a piece of legislation that we paused because we got out pretty quick, and it was a very complicated piece. It stopped in the Finance Committee waiting to go to the floor, and then in the Senate it's in the Judiciary waiting to move, which will result in a 40% reduction of the precursors that you make meth. That's still only a drop in the hat. Let me share with you one specific. I want you to be shocked at this number. Today in the state of Tennessee, every adult in this room can go buy 3,600 cold tablets. What in the world do you need with 3,600 cold tablets? Does anybody in here take 3,600 cold tablets? Average Tennessean takes less than 24. What do we need with 3,600 cold tablets? There's no reason to have that. It's something that we got to look at. But that's that balancing place in government. At what point do we infringe upon the rights of freedom-loving, law-abiding citizens in order to get it to 0.5% that's going to take those pills and make meth? I don't know the answer to that. That's something we have to debate and we have to talk about. Having said that, meth is on my list this year. As chairman of the Criminal Justice Subcommittee, it's on top of my list. And we've talked with the administration, it's on their list. We've talked to a variety of law enforcement people, and it's on their list. So expect that to come this year. One final thing I'll mention, since Ron told most of all the good stuff, and I get to talk about the bad stuff. Pill mills, pain clinics, and the like. There's a real problem when we have things that are being put out on the streets allegedly to help people, and it shows up in the hands of criminals. And speaking specifically of opiate treatment centers and pain centers, some legitimate, some not, using chemicals known as Suboxone and Subutex, and using them for painkillers. They're not indicated by the Food and Drug Administration for painkillers. They are for opiate treatment only. But that's being done today. So we're going to have to get a handle on that this year and move our state in the right direction, public safety. Well, my voice ain't going to last much longer. Thank you for putting up with me. Sorry I sound like this, but it don't happen all the time. Fortunately, in January, February, March, it doesn't happen. I get to get my job done. Thanks for having me.
Thank all three of you for attending tonight, for giving us an update on where things are. I know Representative Mike Harrison, who has Hawkins County that includes part of the city of Kingsport, was out of town tonight, and Senator Frank Nicely, who has also Hawkins County, part of Kingsport, city of Kingsport, had an elective procedure done recently, so he could not be here. And so anyway, let's give these guys a round of our applause and thanks. Next, we want to hear from our own Jason Mumpower. Jason, you're in the house. I know. Up there he is. Former state representative, now deputy comptroller. So, Jason, look forward to hearing.
Thank you. It's good to be back with you at this event for the 8th year in a row. I'm so glad to see that this event has moved to a bigger location and been successful. And it is just a great thing to have been involved in the beginnings of this event and seen it become such a popular annual event, and it's good to be back. You have heard from many in our local state legislative delegation. It's a great delegation, almost as good as it used to be. Just a short time ago. I'm just kidding. And it is great to be able to continue serving you. Myself from Nashville. I woke up in Nashville today, had lunch in Nashville today for that matter, before coming back here. It has been a great transition for me from the legislature over into the comptroller's office. And to have the pleasure to watch over all of your money, all $32.9 billion of it. That's how much you have, whether you knew it or not. That's how much it takes to run this state this year. You all have in front of you a little presentation that I laid out there for you. You might remember I did a PowerPoint last year, and I tried to simplify that this year by putting it in front of you. Of course, on the front, something I knew we'd be having hot dogs and hamburgers, and so I felt that might naturally cause a little indigestion, so I put something on the front that Ron talked about that will ease your pain, and that is that you pay less debt per capita than any citizen in any state in the nation. And that is certainly, as Ron mentioned, a highlight to the sound fiscal governance of your legislature, not only legislators here but across the state. And of course the comptroller's office has a little something to do with that as well, managing the state's debt portfolio. Going through and highlighting your state budget, as you can see up there on slide number 2, as I mentioned, how much money does it take to run the state this year? $32.9 billion. That will keep the lights on, that will keep the roads paved, that will keep the prison doors locked, that will keep the children educated for another year. That's an astounding amount of money, but I do believe it is responsibly balanced. If you turn around to the back, going through this very quickly, you can see on what is slide 5, the first slide on the back, where does the money go? You can see that our single biggest expense continues to be TennCare and health care. Our second biggest expense, education. Some might say that the second biggest should be the biggest, or maybe a more worthy. And you can see that our third is transportation, and our fifth is corrections. So keeping folks locked up is somewhat nearing the top of the expenses, and maybe there's a correlation there. I don't know. Another thing that should make you feel pretty good when you move on to the next slide, you can see there in the state of Tennessee that your taxes per capita as a citizen of the state of Tennessee is, again, one of the lowest in the nation. I believe maybe 48th in the nation out of 50, 2006 per head. Move over there and look at the federal government. How much do you pay on a federal level? Almost $10,000 per head. The more astounding figure, though, is the one below. We talked about as Tennesseans that you have the lowest debt burden per capita in the nation of only $1,502. But move over there to the other column and see how much you owe Uncle Sam. We all owe Uncle Sam at least $58,127. Of course, you can see this was printed on July 24th, so it's a little out of date. That number is higher now than it was when the ink hit this paper. You can see, again, a summary of your state budget is that it cuts taxes, reduces expenses, reduces the state's debt, provides for the essential services, adds $100 million to our state savings account for a rainy day, and the budget is balanced, revenues versus expenses. All those things you can say about the state of Tennessee. Very few, if any, can you say about the federal government or many other states in this nation. We are truly, truly, truly fortunate to live in the state of Tennessee and appreciate the good work that the legislature does, and certainly our top-notch legislative delegation here in Sullivan County and throughout Upper East Tennessee. As I say, it is a pleasure to still be able to serve you. It's good to see so many of you that do come down during the legislative session for the Chambers event down there, for the leadership program, and for other events that you come to. Please do stop by the Capitol. We have the oldest working Capitol in the United States, or second oldest working Capitol in the United States. There are capitals that are older that are just not in service anymore. Newly remodeled, come up there and see it when you come. My office is on the first floor of the Capitol. I know when people ask Governor Haslam where his office is, he says, well, it's right across the hall from the Comptroller's office. That's how you know where it is. So do come see us when you're in town. I also put my business card on top of this little packet that I gave you. I hope you'll keep it. Hope you'll call me if I can be of any assistance to you, as it is still a great, great pleasure to serve you from my role in the Comptroller's office. One of my special roles tonight, or let me ask, anybody have any questions before that about your budget? One of the special roles that I have get to do tonight is recognize someone who has decided to spend her birthday evening with us. This is none other than the former chair of the Kingsport Government Affairs Committee, C.G. McCord. C.G., will you come up? I've got to get my instructions. Hang on. I was looking for the present. It's under my feet. First off, is there anybody else that your birthday's today? We don't have a present for you, so that's good. Let's all join in singing Happy Birthday to CG. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear CG. Happy birthday to you. Thank you all very much, and please do let me know when I can help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. It was, I believe, your idea, along with Nicole, 8+ years ago to get this started. And so we think you've had a great idea. This is really good. Before Catherine comes up, let me just say, be thinking of questions you might have. We're going to have a time after Catherine Glover speaks to have questions of our speakers here tonight. So be thinking of any questions. So Catherine, come on up. And while she's coming, this is Catherine Glover. She's president and CEO of the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Some of you might have been with us on our regional legislative breakfast back in the winter when Catherine first came publicly, I guess to a large group anyway. But since then, she only started in November last year in Nashville and was here in the winter. I was with her today at lunch at Johnson City Chamber. She's been across the state, and she'll tell you what she's been doing, but I know she's been active, been engaged, and everybody says good things about what she's doing in her new leadership role. So welcome to your first barbecue for Kingsport Chamber.
It is. Thank you. Well, 10 months on the job, give or take, and this is my third visit to Kingsport. I'll be coming back again next month. So I grew up in Maine, and some of the mountains and the hospitality and the way that people just are here is lovely. It doesn't need a legislative barbecue or any reason to come here. But the barbecue is great, gentlemen. Thank you. Awesome. My family and we've got 5 children and 6 grandchildren, and we were talking about where foods come from. And we were stuck on, where do hot dogs come from? What country? Where do hot dogs come from? So my daughter said, Mom, we were talking about heritage, are we Italian or vegetarian? So, it was tough to answer that one, so I couldn't answer that. I couldn't answer where hot dogs come from. But it is good to be here, and Lieutenant Governor gave some great stats, some of which have maybe tucked away all these notes. Miles said, we've got it down to 30 minutes. You got it down to 30 minutes, Catherine? I said, yes. So it'll be 30 minutes or less, probably less. Miles Burdine, as Representative Lundberg said, this group of chambers here, Tri-Cities, Bristol, Johnson City, Kingsport, unequivocally set the bar for this state in many ways. We've got 4 large urban chambers that are very active, very vociferous in their legislation, their support of legislation, their opposition sometimes, their advocacy on behalf of businesses. But in this particular area, not only the business community, Miles, your team, our elected officials here set the bar as well as far as partnership. And there are others in the state that wish that they had the relationship that all of you have here. So it's something that we enjoy working with all of the folks here. It was a good year, 2013, for business in Tennessee. Biggest deal for us as far as the business community, and most of you here, shy of the trial attorneys, is workers' compensation reform. This puts us in a new league as far as business attraction, retention, expansion. Prior to this reform, and it's multifaceted. By the way, we're coming here with the Department of Labor, the Governor's Office, Abby Hudgens, who's fantastic, on August 28th. 9 to noon, and we encourage you to come out and to understand what the reform measures are all about. But prior to this, every single state that touched us was cheaper. The rates were cheaper. In some cases, we were exponentially higher in what we had to pay as businesses. This gives us a new level playing field. We're such a great state to do business in. We have a very pro-business legislature right now, very pro-business. And that's something we need to celebrate. So having the workers' comp reform was a big deal, and I want to thank our elected officials for that because that was a big push. But it was a favorable time for this. No new business taxes were enacted this year. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. New economic development investments were approved. Unemployment insurance cost savings for employers were enacted. From the Tennessee State Chamber's perspective, who we also serve, by the way, is the State Manufacturing Association. So manufacturing is very strong. Automotive manufacturing, all of the support industries that go to that. Chemicals. We have a very unique set of skills here as far as the representation of the businesses. And we're pleased about that. At the state chamber level, we had 2 lobbyists, and good, bad, or indifferent, it sometimes takes that level of influence to engage. Being new myself, and I'd be the first to admit that, I love relationships, but more so I love the outcomes and what happens as a result of leveraging opportunities. The Chamber did bring on an additional 7 lobbyists this year, and we'll be working with them throughout the end of the year. And there's some great folks on board there. They've taught me a lot. They've opened up some doors for our businesses, and we'll continue to work with them. But what this does, whether you agree or not with having lobbyists, it works. And it helps to influence, as I say. I'm going to have to go back a few pages here because I wanted to tout some of the great statistics that you touted, and it's something we should be proud of. The one thing that's probably most troubling is the fact that our workforce does not receive that great ranking. But we're well on our way there. The reform initiatives that have been put forward over the last few years and moving forward right now show extreme promise. But the outcome-based nature of these reforms is what we're really focusing on. Lieutenant Governor mentioned the volatility with education reform in the state right now, and that's natural. Anytime there's change, and this is change, there's going to be some uncertainty. The State Chamber has come out and will continue to support Common Core. We believe that standardization and the opportunity to excel will provide the workforce that we need, at least one tool in our arsenal. And we know that you're not all going to agree with that, but it's one thing that we feel strongly about. We talked about the celebration of 20 years, Virginia, Tennessee, scholars. Because of Eastman and other folks in this room, the Tennessee State Chamber of Commerce instituted Tennessee Scholars about 10 years ago. And that has shown marked success. And its intent is to stimulate and to challenge throughout high school, not only with science, technology, engineering, and math, but also progressively to become engaged in your community. Community service, giving back, soft skills that we all hear about, morning, noon, and night. We need those soft skills. We've heard it for years, and we're working on that. But we have to remember that we've kind of, at least this generation, I know I'm guilty, have trained our children to say, it's great, everybody's equal, you're great, can't lose. Reality is there's competition out there, and we've got to understand that. And folks that challenge themselves in K-12, in high school, and then post-secondary will help us be more competitive globally. So Tennessee Scholars, 10 years out, we're now in 90% of all school districts. And it's showing success. People that are graduating with the Scholars diplomas right now show to the future employer that they've challenged themselves and they've been successful. As a matter of fact, there are many employers, including many in this region, that on their application for employment ask you if you're a Tennessee Scholars grad. So we know that effectively challenging curriculum in young minds works. Voucher program, great education system here. But there are certainly parts of our state that don't enjoy the health of the education system that is definitely here. The Tennessee Chamber supported the voucher program that the governor proposed last year, and we knew that it was withdrawn at the end of session. If it comes up again, we'll continue to support it because we believe that there should be some opportunities and some choice. Again, we realize not everybody's going to agree with this, but from the Tennessee Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we focus on the 30,000-foot elevation. What's going to be the most amount of good for the most amount of people? All right. Not going to talk about guns and parking lots. Energy and the environment. Our area, Chattanooga, certain areas of our state are ripe. Natural gas, again, a potential volatile issue only because of the means of extraction. But we've got a great energy environment here. So many things are happening. Natural gas industry passed the Energy Independence Act of 2013, which encourages the state to purchase natural gas vehicles. It's a small little thing, but it's a big thing in the scheme of things. I came from New England. As you can probably tell, my accent isn't quite southern. But before coming here, I came from Albany, Georgia, and I was down there for about 5 years. In New England and upstate New York, where I came from prior to that, don't hold that against me either. Remember, Maine. Keep Maine in the back of your mind. We were working on natural gas extraction for years. Very, very fruitful, and now, of course, very, very promising for our future. Chattanooga has a great reserve. And the way that extraction is done here is different in most parts of the country because of the topography, the way our geography is settled here. And from all reports we've read, this does not cause harm to our groundwater, pollution, and so on. I'm not going to dig too deep because there's a lot of things involved with natural gas. But know that we're focusing on alternatives, alternative forms of energy. There's a lot going on at the Chamber because we work to affect the overall business climate. Taxes, positive revenue collections, we've heard that. Thank you, Jason. allowed for quarter reduction in state sales tax. Attempts to enact tax tribunal legislation were not moved forward this year, and I don't want to get too politically wonky because I know not everybody's into politics, but just know that we're here to work with our elected officials, with the businesses that we serve, and that it means as much as it does to us because we live in Nashville, but because we live in the state of Tennessee, that we have a successful climate. Last thing I'll say, besides that we're so pleased that we won with workers' comp, is that this is a great state. We work with the State Economic Community Development, who also, by the way, is just really embarking upon a fantastic opportunity for exporting. Businesses in this state have been exporting for a long time. There's a lot of resources and some great personnel that have come on board that are going to reach out to you and have some incentives to teach the smaller businesses in particular how easy it is to export and to become globally competitive. So much more to share, more coming up in the session. It's going to be a quick one, 10 weeks, and we'll be done. And thank you. April 19th, April 18th, it was beautiful. And of course, this year will be even more quick. We look forward to seeing and hearing from you, good, bad, or indifferent. If you disagree with our opinions, please let me know that too. We'd like to have a well-balanced, well-thought-out proposal before we come to our elected officials. And we'd like to be a little bit more proactive than perhaps we have been in the past. We're located at 611 Commerce Street. If you look out my window, you will see the Capitol. And as much as I've tried to get a zip line there because it's all downhill, they haven't given it to me yet. But we might work on that. And I stand there with the red and blue yes and no signs with votes are on the floor, but I got to get down there. So please know that you're welcome to come and visit us. We're so open to your input, and we just want to make Tennessee work as much as you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Thanks for being here. Before we have the floor open for questions, get out your smartphone of choice and make a note to remind yourself of the next legislative event. So Tuesday, August 20th at the Food City Press Room, Congressman Phil Rowe will be here speaking to us on noon on Tuesday, August 20th. So go to the Chamber website, register online for that event. Now let's open it for questions for any of our speakers that were here. If you have any questions at all, we might be able to, our respondents might be able to stand and talk loudly, except for Representative Sipley. You might have to come to the microphone, Tony, but other than that, who has a question? Any questions at all for our speakers tonight? Surely there's a question in the room. No? I see anybody back there. Nicole, do you see any questions in the back? No? All right. Well, let me thank you again for coming. Before we adjourn, let me recognize and thank our sponsors once again. The good sound by the Elixir Group. We appreciate that. The food and beverage sponsor, Food City, and our 4 good grillers were great tonight. But our government sponsors that sponsor events like this all through the year, not just tonight, but all through the year, Appalachian Power, AT&T, Charter Communications, Domtar, Eastman Chemical Company, the Edinburgh Group, Health South, Holston Valley Medical Center, Indian Path Medical Center, and Pfizer. We appreciate everything you do for the entire year for the events that we have. So I also want to say hats off to Nicole, the chamber staff that put all this together, the decorations, the event. You know, this is a neat place. We could, as you can see, double and triple the size. It's a great venue to have this. So thanks to you and your staff for getting this done. Miles, for your leadership for the chamber, and for our state, local officials that came and supported this. It's always good to have dialogue. Have a safe trip home. Oh, grab another hot dog. I think we have some left. You want to take one home. So thanks for coming. See you next time.